perception, our feeling, one way or the other. How do you, or how hard is it for you to set that aside when trying a case or judging a case?
So, I'm going to say this. I'm still an attorney. After everybody votes in November, because that is the most important thing that we need to be doing, then I will, yes, be elected a judge.
So we're going to speak it into existence.
I take it. I receive it. Additionally, I represent police officers. I work for the city of Birmingham. So in addition to representing other departments within the city of Birmingham, I'm also charged with representing our combined police department in civil suits. The Birmingham Police Department is comprised of over 70% African Americans. So that's something that we need to consider. Like, it looks like our population. Actually, if anybody is biased in the Birmingham Police Department, it would be minorities, because we are represented in our police department a majority of minorities. And so we do set a standard. And I think that that is something that has transitioned over the years. Okay, but I just had to say that. Because the information is the key. So when we think that all that represents us are the people that are harassing us are always white officers, that's not true in Birmingham, because we don't really have that many white officers in Birmingham. Secondly, as an attorney and as a judge in the future, you are charged with representing, one, the interest of your client, but the law is the same for everybody. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what you believe. Like, the law is the law. So a judge is just a mediator. It is the job of the attorneys to convince the jury of your peers what it is that they want you to believe. But you have to be willing and able and capable of receiving the information. So a judge just basically says, hey, yes, that's allowed to come in because based on the rules of evidence, this is this. Or based on the law, this is this. It is up to a jury to make a determination more times out of than not as to whether what the facts are is the elements of the crime. So it is important to make sure that you are registered to vote and that you are participating in the system, because the power belongs to you all. I just get up and tell you my side of the story. I tell you my client's side of the story. And the other attorney tells you their client's side of the story. You make the determination as to what you believe. You make the determination as to whether an officer is guilty of excessive force or whether the force that he used was reasonable under the situation. That's up to a jury to decide, more times than not. You're tried by. That's why it's so important for us to be involved in the system. You can't just go home and close your doors and turn on the TV and get on your phone. Like, we're a community, which means that we have to be involved with each other. That means doing your part in all aspects. So in addition to going to work and picking up your kids, like, you got to participate. You have to vote. You make all of the decisions. So we don't make decisions because we aren't involved.
There's 74% of the African American people in Birmingham, and apparently only 20% voted in the last election, and that is 50% right there, the people that didn't vote, that didn't participate in the system, and then wonder why things are the way they are.
May I please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Young man, what was your name again?
Andre.
What
Yes,
I want
ma'am.
you to be very clear about is, I don't choose to represent the high-profile media cases, but currently I am representing 2 capital murder clients that are, being charged with murder. So in those instances where I can separate my emotions, I have the choice to do that.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just want to make sure that that's clear.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Before Brian, I'm going to let you wrap it up. She had a question. And then you go to
No, it was more so a comment because I really wanted to be here, and I really feel as though these meetings are very, very important because me, myself, as a female, I could have been a Sandra Bland because I have had discrimination against white police officers and being called a nigger, being called the B word, and things of that nature. And so things like this, when I see the things, see videos on media and things of that nature, and it took a minute for me to even trust African American police officers. But after my incident, but I think it's important as the community for us to really pull together and educate each other. We're here, but some of the main people that we need to reach are not here. So what do? How do we reach those that we're really needing to reach? I mean, most of the time, we're nothing against marching, we're marching, but where's the action? Who's willing to go into the community? Who's willing to take the time out with the children? Who's willing to educate? I believe I was not a Sandra Bland because I knew certain things of the law. I knew when he was calling over the PA, trying to say certain things, I knew to get his badge number. I knew to do this. I knew to do certain things. I knew how to protect myself, which ultimately cost him his job. Which ultimately, yes, I was very hot-headed. I wound up getting very hot-headed because I can't believe you're harassing me. But all in all, it did cost him his job, and I was not a Sandra Bland. But I knew the law. How many of us that's even sitting in this room know the law, know your rights when you do get pulled over? Most importantly, what about the people in the less fortunate areas? Do they know the law? What will we do about it? Coming together now, yeah, we're discussing it, but it's time to move forward. It needs to be a plan of action. And I think somehow pulling us together as a community, really coming together as a community, is what's needed as well.
And I feel your pain, and on behalf of the police officers, I don't know what you encountered, and I want to sincerely say I apologize because I do hear the hurt, the anger, the turmoil that you had to endure. So I want to apologize because at the end of the day, I am a police officer, and when I go out, I represent the police department, and it hurts me to hear these stories, just like it hurts me to hear another story of a black man killing someone. So that's why another black man. So that's why I said I feel like I'm caught in the middle. It's going to take. You said, what do? We have to take responsibility for our own actions. That's the first thing we can do. A lot of times we as a society, like you said, like to march and rant and holler and say, oh, that's wrong. And we get on social media, but we need to make sure that we are checked ourselves. We need to know, I do symposiums all the time, talking to kids. I am myself trying to bridge the gap. Chris and I work together all the time with the kids because a lot of times we're talking about the inner city youth that the only contact they've had with the police has been bad. When they come into to take daddy to jail, to take mama to jail, to break it up. So I'm trying to clear the stereotype and let them know that it's okay. Whatever I can do to try to bridge that gap. So that's where the challenge and the charge comes to me. But again, we should just always know the facts. And when you spoke about know your rights, it's a thing to not only knowing your rights, but how to implement your rights. On a traffic stop, that is not the time to combat anything. If you don't get anything else from what I've said or anyone else said, the traffic stop is not your courtroom. We are trained on a traffic stop to get in and get out because the traffic stop is dangerous for police officers as well as citizens. No one is there but you, that individual, and the good Lord, or whatever type of plant, tree, or anything that you believe in. That is what's there. And so I don't know if you were here in the beginning and you said you got a little hot-headed, but my challenge to you as well as myself, I'm trying to be a better person working on my temper. I don't like my emotions being able to control me. I want to control my emotions. So that's something that we can all do as individuals. If you know someone is doing you wrong, take the step, take the high road, take the charge and say, you know what, thank you. And you handle it another way. Like we said before, we have Internal Affairs Division. They police the police. The criticism that the police are getting now, that's the criticism that IAD gets from the police department. So it starts from the top and it rolls down. So I just want you to know that there are ways to effectively get your point across. Being a hothead, no one will win on the streets. It's not designed to win. You will not win fighting on the side of the road and saying, I know my rights.
No, I wasn't like
No, I'm just saying generally. And that's what people do because they become so upset, things escalate, and now we have another fatality.
Yeah.
So you did right. Get the badge number, get the name, launch your complaint the next morning, and take it to
I followed
court.
all rules from, I followed and did everything they asked.
Okay.
With me being a hothead, I was angry.
Absolutely.
He knew I was angry. He knew, okay, I'm not just going to say yes sir, and do this, and
See, that's the challenge I want you to get. I want you to go home at the end of the day. I want all people to go home. I want my black people to go home because we have an epidemic going on. And the epidemic, hold on one moment. I'm trying to save your life, okay? Now, we're going to keep it real. There is an epidemic going on, okay? And the epidemic is I want to go home and you want to go home. So who's going to take the step up to say I'll take the high road? It's not going to kill me to say yes, sir, no, sir, and go. I will take that. But I'm not going to debate with an individual as a black male on a traffic stop. If I'm out of state, out of town, I may get stopped. I'm not going to say I'm a police officer because I feel the pain and hurt that you feel. I'm a black male. You understand what I'm saying? And police officers aren't like all the way around. A lot of people think that Birmingham say, oh, we're better than that. Or you modeled by this program, you got this going on, or you think you're better than Louisiana cops. Let's catch you up on something. So when I get stopped going through New Orleans, I'm going to always say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And if I need to file a complaint with Internal Affairs, I'll do that because I am not an exception to the rules just like you are. So I'm just trying to give you the tools to go home because I got to go home as well because I am black and I am a male.
with my particular situation, they were actually following me and harassing me. What I mean by I'm not going to just say yes, sir, meaning I knew my rights. And just because you're pushing your weight and pushing your first of all, I got angry because you're calling me a nigger, you're calling me the D word. But I know my rights and no, I'm not going to bow down, meaning I'm not just going to just sit here and just be timid. Yes, I know my rights. Yes, I need to pick up my phone and call my mom, have her to listen, because my mom is also in law enforcement in Montgomery. I also knew, what to do, called out his badge number. I did certain things, but I let him know, you cannot just intimidate me. I haven't done anything. You're calling saying it's drugs in the car when I have never smoked anything or did anything a day in my life. And while, I followed certain steps and certain things that I knew of to be correct. And when he said to get out, leave your car, and walk home, I did just that. Because I did not want to wind up on the side of the road or what have you, because it was just me and two other white policemen. And I was hurt. I set my pride aside, and I walked and cried. But ultimately, I went back and I fought, which cost him his job. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times, my biggest point is getting into the community that's needing to hear it. Yes, all of us need to hear it. But look around. Who's here? You have people that's in good jobs, in good homes, probably in good areas, who have the sense and the knowledge. We got to get to the people who do not have the knowledge. What do we do? How do we educate them? That's my biggest thing.
And I also think it's important to acknowledge the fact that, okay, so the conversation we're having, this is so complicated, right? It's so layered, because I agree with what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying. And human nature is that emotional, okay, right, like we're all educated, right? We're good, we got ourselves together, right? But catch me on the wrong day. You know what I'm saying? Like I should be as educated and composed as I want to, but watch too many of these shootings take place, watch too much of this stuff happen, watch too much of it, and then get pulled over and catch me on the wrong day. So, and the wrong day doesn't mean I'm going to be belligerent. It doesn't mean I'm going to show my behind. It just means I'm not going to have those pleasantries. Why are you stopping me? What do you need, officer? It's going to come off that way. You know what? That's human nature. And to try to to try to say that I just want, okay, and let me preface this by saying, and I haven't said this yet, my husband's in law enforcement. So we've had these conversations, and he said to me several times before, I want you to get home. Your goal is to get home. I understand it, baby, but what if they catch me on the And especially after what was on the news today, the new thing, right? Now you have a man on the ground with his hands up, like, what? What else do you have to do? Now in essence, this person has done everything, right? Everything that they're telling us to do. Everything. You're laying on the ground, hands up, you're articulating in the most intelligent way. I am a mental health professional, I'm trying to assist this young man, I'm doing all these things, that his nut had gone in his hand, and what happens still? Still, we got to address that. Because if you don't address that, then you're still putting the onus and the responsibility on people, to justify and try to tell you why not to shoot me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So, and I feel like, okay, the American Psychological Association has said this, right? Because there's all sorts of things coming up now about how PTSD can be experienced off of these things, post-traumatic slave syndrome, racial fatigue syndrome. Because if we don't address these things, if we don't acknowledge what that feels like, it will drive you insane. So yes, like, we need to have these layered and complicated conversations of what does it mean to have that interaction, but the officers need to be having those conversations too. So I see both sides. I see, yes, let's get home, but at the same time, let's acknowledge that feeling of what it feels like to even be pulled over. Because you just don't know, right? You could do everything and say everything right, and there's that feeling that you just don't know what's going to still take place. Or if you've had experiences like you've had before, right? You're going to have a certain feeling if you're to get pulled over again. It's what your reality is now. And those people who love you and who are in your circle are going to have the same kind of thing because they know it's happened to you. So this thing, even if it happens to one, it happens to all of us, right? It seems like it happens to all of us. So we need to address and acknowledge that has an impact on our mental wellness.
I think you had a question for the attorney.
I just want to speak to a call of action, and it was something that you said, Jen. Because we are approaching a big election year, so I just want to speak to that. There is a big misconception that the law was not designed for us or was not created for us. So as attorneys, and we're approaching that year, I believe that is a big thing as to why people don't vote, because the law does not work for us. So in the statement that you made, the law was the same across the board. How do we, as the Urban League and everybody else that is here, and this is something that we can take out in the field, how can we combat that mindset if the law is the same for everybody? How can we converse that and say, well, it does work for you to get people in and engaging and to go out and vote?
You have to have better examples of it actually. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's okay.
no, but
how can the attorneys to address that? How can we respond to that? The law does not work for us if the law was the same across the board, so that we can get people to get out and actually vote.
If your feeling is that the law doesn't work, how do you change it?
I don't think nobody.
How do you change it?
I don't know how to change it. I just became a lobbyist yesterday.
You become responsible to your community. Right. You get involved in your community. And you put people in positions that can change the law to be what you think it to be. And that's not by turning your back and going home and closing the door. That's like getting involved. Like, that's having this community dialogue. That's taking it back to your neighborhood. That's voting on election day. That's understanding while you may not be able to select the president because of the way that our system is set up, you can pick who your local government is.
So
you can pick who serves you on a city.
The little
so
win,
if you
the
think that the law is the
win.
same across the board, is that a fair assessment for people to believe that the law does not work for us if it is the same?
I mean, there's only one law. There's only one law. There's a rule book, there's a code, and it is for everyone. It is how you allow it to be applied to you that makes the difference. It is the same. You can't say that there's a law, a black law, and a white law. No, there's not. There's one law.
It is.
I couldn't agree more with Jaden. There is one law. However, it depends on your individual experience with the law. Like the young lady in the back, she'll never believe the law is the same across the board because of her experience. I personally have had experiences where I don't believe the law is the same across the board because of my own encounter with law enforcement. But at the end of the day, the law is supposed to be the same for everyone. Is it the same for everyone? Clearly not. That's why we're having this conversation. But in order to make a difference, getting involved in your community, making sure you vote, making sure we are aware of who's elected locally, as Jason said. I mean, there's a lot of things that we must do individually before we just get on a bandwagon saying the law's not on my side. Personally, I had an issue with law enforcement. So in return, I went to law school. Let me learn what I need to know so that in the future I can defend people, or I'll know my own rights. So we take on issues and deal with them differently depending on how our experiences, but the law is supposed to be the same across the board. That's just the law.
I just wanted to see how we, because I know a lot of people that don't vote for those specific reasons, so what could be a good way that we can engage those people? Hey, it's like how can we, what is the state has to, because everybody isn't going to go and do it, and we tell people to do that, and they're necessarily not going to do it.
The way the our system is set up is for people to truly have the power. You just have to take advantage of the opportunities to assert that control. Like, it is amazing to me because the makeup of the city of Birmingham, the makeup of Jefferson County, if we took advantage of the opportunities that we have here, i.e. voting, you can't stop us. And when I say us, I mean brown people. Like, I'm sorry, it's just, like, look at the numbers. We are, the brown people are the
But brown
majority.
people also need to be held accountable as well.
Oh, and
So when we vote Ms. Javen in, we have to hold Ms. Javen accountable. In our community, and what she's saying today will be the same as she says what she's saying.
And what really will get the job done is we have to vote with our dollars more so than our mouths. People, we take money to Walmart and McDonald's every single day in our communities. There are restaurants and mom and pop stores that will definitely help us build a community. However, if we do not shop in the places where the oppressive lawmakers, make money from, they will have to listen.
I have one question.
We don't have stores. Number one, we're not. What I'm saying is, there are.
Let's not talk over one another.
So what are we meaning by stores? When we do establish our stores, because we don't have that chain, the prices are 2 times more than what's in the store. So in the areas that some people live in, they cannot afford to go out and do that.
That's where we come in.
So we have to get another type of.
So we keep it in the balance. What we're going to do, we're going to ask our panelists, for the sake of time, we've been here, I know, for 2 hours. We're going to ask our panelists within 30 to 40 seconds. We're going to come back.
10 seconds.
We're going to ask our panelists to sum it up. Or we'll start over here to my immediate left, far left, and within about 30 seconds, just sum it up for us.
I will say on behalf of, I don't want to say on behalf of, but I would just like to say Black Lives Matter is a form of mental health advocacy, and that having that space and that forum for individuals to fight for systemic change in order to address some of the inequalities that are taking place is actually a very powerful thing, and that the community should get behind it. But I also, I felt like your last response in regards to the young lady who was saying the laws don't apply to us, your response really encouraged individuals to feel empowered to make change. And so I feel like that goes hand in hand with what the Black Lives Matter movement is promoting. And so I am all for, like, when you think about what just took place in Dallas, what just took place in Baton Rouge, those are the actions of individuals who, had mental health concerns to a certain extent, but also individuals who felt like they had no power. Whereas Black Lives Matter is really about individuals acknowledging the power that they do have to bring about change. So, and that can actually contribute to your mental wellness.
Give us a good 30 seconds.
Good 30 seconds. Well, first of all, as a community, we got to understand that our community is just not right in our own area. Our community is U.S.-wide. And when we start talking about doing these marches and these protests and situations like that, nobody's talking about going to Chicago where we're killing each other on an everyday type of situation. And we have to make sure that we have to make sure that we get into these type of areas. We can't be in one area and not be in all areas. And that's if you want to do a march, let's do a march in Chicago and help their communities heal and get together. We're suffering with PTSD right now in our communities. Post-traumatic stress disorder in our community. That's what we're suffering with. We've been suffering with it for 400 years. And PTSD goes up and down according to how you can maintain it and deal with it. It goes from the sense of 1 and 2 year olds into 99-year-old individuals of how you deal with certain situations in your life. If we don't address these type of issues, we're going to always stay oppressed. And we're not just being oppressed by, at this point in time, we're not being oppressed by Caucasians anymore, to me, not in my eyesight. We're oppressing ourselves.
I just think that everyone needs to take responsibility for our own actions. That's number one thing, and we need to go out and educate. I get tired of talking to Chris. I get tired of Chris calling me at 1 a.m. and say, hey, another officer got shot, or another black man got shot. I get tired of it. So I like for the community to come together as a whole when we talk about these things and these issues together as people, so we all can be on one accord and get past this plague on society. No,
I'm so sorry.
Literally 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I don't think I have.
8, 7, 6.
I don't think I have with our community, man, that like drive me crazy. It's like we talking about. You said we can take control of our community, but the thing is, we as black don't have no campaign. People get elected, so when they get in office, they don't feel like they have to respond to us. So that's one thing I would like to challenge us to. When whoever you're gonna vote for, put some dollars behind them. So when they do get elected, you can be on their side. That's all I was.
Good point, good point. I'm going to end it with the young man. You're going to be the last one.
Yes, sir. So, and this is acknowledging everybody that was talking earlier, like acknowledging every little win. I know your specific situation, you won. You went through the proper procedures and you won. That's not on Facebook though. That's not on Twitter. It didn't hit CNN. So the little wins are acknowledged. So we have to start patting ourselves on the back when little wins are acknowledged. So you said economic development, not going to Walmart, but going to the mom and pop shop. When I go to the mom and pop shop support, when I give my extra tip to that barber, it's not going to be put on for social media. So we kind of got to stop beating each other up, saying that we're not supporting how we need to be, or we're not mentoring, because that's how the media works. They want to show the negative things, but we are doing a lot of positive.
Yeah.
When you have attorneys, you have the people in the places that are doing the behind-the-scenes work, it's just not on camera. And it's a mental thing that makes us feel like we're not doing anything. When, hey, I'm just making a crazy number. Say 50 people, black men were shot last year. We may be at 40 now. I don't know. I'm just saying. But because we saw 30 on Facebook, it makes us feel like black people we're not doing any community service. We're not in these young men. We're not teaching young women how to do right. It's all a mental thing. I think we are doing better. We're not where we need to be, but I think we're doing better in all areas. Academic, economic, everything. I think we're doing better. We got to keep pushing.
That's definitely a good assessment. I would like to thank our panelists for giving us your expertise. Honestly, I didn't know the importance of mental health until we were talking amongst our board about a week or two ago. Because I didn't think of it that way. I just thought, okay, attorney and police. But just you really opened both of you all really opened my eyes to a totally different avenue that I can't speak for everyone, but I know myself I didn't think of. As far as the conversation and the action plan behind it, we spoke for 2.5 hours about a array of topics. Like you mentioned earlier, we can't cover everything in one conversation. So one thing about the Urban League, this will be a continuation. To the young lady in the back left right corner's point, we have to get out where the young people are. They're not going to come up. They're not going to come to the Urban League meetings. They're not going to come to some of the things that go on in the neighborhood. Now, I've had an opportunity to work with Chris and his organization, TAP. I mean, it's a great organization. They get the youth, they get them engaged. But Chris is just one individual. TAP is just one organization. You don't have to be an organization to get youth out and get them engaged. All right? You have one thing I learned being a part of the Urban League in particular. You have to get the youth to trust you. They're not going to trust you by being in their presence once or twice. It has to be a continuation. So I said to say the same thing about this situation. It has to be a continuation. One thing about this, and even with the Black Lives Matter, I support a lot of the conversation. But if we don't care about our own, why should someone else care? If I don't care about my kids at home eating, why should I care if Brian? Why should I get upset if Brian don't care? I say this to say one thing. When police brutality, Caucasian, killing an African American, we're in an uproar, we're marching, we're on every media outlet in the world. But when someone it is to kill 8 people, it's just business as usual. We've gotten accustomed to that. So in order to make a change on a national level, we need to make a change in our community. And 99.9% of the time, and it's probably closer to 100, correct me, Kareem, any murder or any illegal activity going in the hood, we know who did it. Because I sit in the barbershop and they'll tell me who killed everybody. They know everybody. They know. So, and we don't open our mouth. But if the police come in here right now and throw one of us on the ground, we're ready to march, sue, get an attorney, talk about what we need to do. And then, as Americans, we're short-minded. Something else will happen, we got the next, we'll forget all about it. That's the thing. So, in order to make a change, we need to be consistent with our intent. Meaning, we need to feel the same way we feel about the police brutality.